Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting version of Chip Talks Health. Today, we're going to talk about hormones. Boy, is there a lot of interesting information out there about hormones. And if you're a female, you've likely considered your hormones. You might have taken some kind of hormone replacement therapy. You've likely had a discussion, with your physician or your pharmacist or other people about your hormones and why they might be disbalanced or why they might be out of whack and how that can cause, let's say, many other issues. If you're a man, it seems like we're assaulted with this testosterone thing. So if you're a man and you have gonads, you're making testosterone. That testosterone that you're making might not ultimately appear in your bloodstream. And there's reasons for that. That is the purpose of this whole Chip Talk. So we're going to talk about all that. But again, this is a big issue right now, that hormones, and we've kind of got the wrong idea about hormones and what causes hormone, let's say, deficiency or hormone dysregulation. So let's kind of set the record straight, if you will. So again, you'll hear me say this a lot, but I believe this, and I think most of you believe this. Certainly most of you who believe in God believe this, but God is a perfect engineer. And what I mean by that is that your body was designed to function really kind of perfectly, in perfect form. And there's a perfect amount of hormones that are right, let's say, for you, and those are going to be generally right, across a broad spectrum of demographics, let's say. So again, hormones don't just randomly malfunction. They don't just go bad. So when we see somebody who's got hormonal disruption, we need to ask, what's causing that? What's causing that? What is the insult? It isn't that they're broken. It isn't that their bodies are defective. It isn't that genetically they've just been dealt a bad hand. That's what the medical system would have you believe. But again, God is a perfect engineer. If your hormones are out of whack, there's some reason for that. And usually that's some type of infection. Could be environmental, but generally it's way more probable that it's some kind of infection. So really, hormones reflect this, let's say, divine blueprint that you're just a collection of cells. You don't make defective cells. You don't make sick cells. You don't make wonky cells. You don't make dysfunctional cells. You make perfect cells in God's plan. So as we're making perfect cells, we should have perfect organs and perfect systems. And the fact that we don't just means that there's something going on, right? So the body has all kinds of feedback loops to try to balance all this, to try to make sure that we're always striving toward perfect. And it's got lots of, let's say, crisis centers to do things if we're not. Hormones are super tightly regulated. They're regulated by the hypothalamus. They're regulated by the pituitary gland. They're regulated by the adrenals. They're regulated by the thyroid. They're regulated by the ovaries, reproductive organs, testes, and even more. So you should always have optimal testosterone, estrogen, cortisol, aldosterone, T3, T4, all of them. Those should be perfect because God is a perfect engineer. So you should always have optimal amounts of those hormones. You need them to run your body. You should always have optimal amounts. So if there are deviations from this, that's a warning sign. That's a signal. It's just saying, gee, you need to look deeper here. Something's going on. Something is impacting this individual's ability to manage and regulate their hormones. It's just that simple. So it's not, gee, you're broken, or gee, you're defective, or gee, you're genetically whacked out, like the medical system would have you believe. So what could cause basically this whack out, this change in a hormone situation? It's pathogens. It's the bugs. A pathogen could be a bacteria, could be a virus, could be a parasite, or could be a fungus, or could be some other little critters. But again, they're things that aren't us, that want to invade us and live on us. So why would they want to mess with hormones? And they do absolutely mess with hormones, but what would be their purpose? What would be their function in messing with hormones? Well, turns out hormones are super important in our immune system. Okay. So your immune system is very robust, and depending on what your immune system sees, it's going to do different things. So if it sees something for the first time, it's just going to try to kill that thing. If it sees a bacteria or a fungus or a helminth or parasite or a virus, it's going to try different methods, let's say, to try and kill those guys. So if it can't kill them with one method, it's going to turn around and try to kill them with another method, and then another method, and then another method, because each of those guys kind of require a little bit different thing to kill them and manage them. And our immune system is very robust. So it literally is kind of, it's a decision tree. It's looking at, doing things. And if that doesn't work, it's going to move on to the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. So if I'm a bug and I want to survive inside of you, I've got to be able to stop that, to hijack that whole immune system and that whole, because it's very robust. It's going to kill me. You're going to kill me if I'm trying to invade you, unless I've got some method to try to hijack or confuse or mess with your immune system. Hormones are a great way to do that. Why? Because hormones determine cell differentiation. So every one of your immune mediating cells, whether it's a killer cell or an antibody cell or something that's targeted at a bacteria or something that's targeted at a virus, all of those cells come from stem cells that come from bone. And it turns out that the stem cells that come from bone are also the same stem cells that we use to build blood. So blood comes from these same stem cells, and immune mediators come from these same stem cells. But how those guys get, they call it differentiated, but how they decide what they're going to be depends on the local environment. So you get this kind of blank check that comes into an environment. And again, depending on what's going on in that environment, how you need to use that blank check will become a neutrophil or a eosinophil or a basophil or, all these different, let's say, white blood cell mediators that are needed to kill a helminth or kill a virus or kill a fungal infection. So, and those are a little bit different things. So you need this decision tree, and you need to be able to make these decisions in your immune system in order to defend yourself. That's all done with hormones. Okay. So that's all done with hormones. If I can create an estrogen type local environment, then that's going to favor antibody production. So that's going to favor a more sophisticated immune response, but not a killer response. So again, if I can be killed by your type 1 response, by a killer response, well, then I'm going to want to create a lot of estrogen and force you into a type 2 response, which won't kill me. I can stay alive if I can create a local environment where I've got a lot of estrogen. And again, as these guys grow, that local environment gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Testosterone suppresses excessive inflammation. So if I'm a bug and I thrive on an inflammatory environment, well, I'm going to want to take out your testosterone, aren't I? And there's an enzyme called aromatase that I can do that with. I can convert all your testosterone to estrogen. And again, these bugs step on that enzyme. So if you're a man with low T, you've got some infection where you've got this aromatase stepped on, and you've got some bug that's basically converting your testosterone to estradiol or some other hormone. Cortisol dampens immunity systemically. So if I wanted to really knock down the function of your immune system, I'd cause a cortisol event, fight or flight event. And a lot of these bugs will cause cortisol type events. And they'll leave you feeling like you've just, run away from a bear that's trying to eat you, right? That cortisol crash that happens after fight or flight. A lot of us live in that kind of feeling, right? Because we're infected. We're infected with something that's messing with our cortisol and causing us to feel that way all the time. So pathogens want to sabotage this balance and really shift our white blood cell immunity towards something that won't kill them, something that won't hurt them. And they do this by manipulating the local hormone environment. Now, that local hormone environment could be enough to macro hormone you out, like get rid of all your testosterone and things like that. So like, for example, a parasite might elevate estrogen or suppress testosterone to favor a more antibody type response, because that's softer and more healing and won't really kill them the way that a more killer type response would. So your immune system can kill things, or it can kind of, I've seen it before, I'm going to build antibodies to it, I'm going to try to kind of get rid of it that way. So if you're forcing everything over here into Antibodyville, you're not really, having the horsepower to kill stuff. And a lot of bugs like that. They thrive in that environment. Another thing, like a virus, like a cytomegalovirus, and we see this in a lot of people. We see cytomegalovirus in probably 25% of the people that we're trying to help. But it's going to mimic hormones to inhibit the natural killer cells or cytotoxic T cells that would kill it, okay? So it's going to, in its little local environment, it's going to release hormones and mimic hormones to suppress those natural killer cells or cytotoxic T cells, which is pretty cool. But here's where we got it wrong. And we got it wrong in medicine, right? So we are so backwards in our thinking in pharmacology and medicine. It's just insane. It's like trying to fight a bunch of crazy people when you really understand the truth. But modern medicine really sees hormone imbalance and treats it with a replacement. So you're low in testosterone. Here's some testosterone. Your estrogen is high. Let's block it. Let's cut it back. But no one really ever asked the real important question. Why is this hormone off? Why is it off in the first place? Your body's really good at managing hormones. Why would it be off? And it's most of the time some kind of infection. Instead of asking what's wrong with this system, we should ask what foreign actor is hijacking the controls of our system, because that's almost always the case. In science, you can never say always. That's a bad thing to do. So almost always the case, but it's always the case. All right, so let's look at a couple of these bugs and kind of what they do and how they work. So one of the most dangerous bugs that we see in people, bacteria that we see in people, is something called H. pylori. Why is it dangerous? Well, something like a helminth, a hook round and pinworm, is going to want to live off of you for a long time. It's really not going to, it's going to kill you, but it's going to take 15, 20 years to kill you. Something like H. pylori is aggressive, and it can literally kill you in 1 to 3 years. It can cause cancer pretty quick. It can cause pancreatic cancer, stomach cancer. It can cause all different kinds of, let's say, gut type cancers. So it's not something that you want to have. We probably see it in, 80% or so of the people that we scan. It's something that's super prevalent in our society. So it's a lot, it's out there a lot. If you have burning, gastric upset when you lay down, after you eat, this is likely what you have. So you likely have H. pylori, and it's something that you don't want to mess around with. You want to get in here and get help for it. We've got a product called Gut Restore and True Medics that will work for H. pylori infections. It boosts your immune system, and your immune system will get rid of it. But you got to do that in the proper way, and our Gut Restore tablets do that. But let's walk through pylori, a pylori infection, as to what hormone chaos that this guy would cause. So just getting infected with pylori, again, very common infection. We see it in a lot of people. What's it going to do? Well, the first thing it's going to do is it's going to lower your ability to manufacture stomach acid. And that's part of how it controls its local microenvironment. Is it stomach acid will kill it. So it's going to basically have an area where you can't get stomach acid too. And it's usually in your upper GI, upper stomach. So it will colonize that area first, but then it will start to lower your stomach acid, and it will lower your stomach acid enough to where it has a thriving home. It will create systemic inflammation. So again, your heart will get inflamed from having an H. pylori infection. Your brain will get inflamed from having an H. pylori infection. And you don't want an inflamed heart, and you don't want an inflamed brain. This guy also reduces B12 and iron levels. So again, if you're showing up on a blood test or something as B12 deficient, you've likely got H. pylori or something that's disrupting your stomach acid. If you're anemic or show up anemic all the time, again, you've got something that's disrupting your ability to absorb iron, and it's likely this guy. H. pylori also alters leptin and ghrelin. So again, he's going to mess with your ability to understand when you're really hungry or when you're really full. That is going to mess with your hunger, your weight, your adipose tissue, inflammation, GLP-1s, GIPs, the whole deal is disrupted with an H. pylori infection. He also suppresses aldosterone indirectly by impairing sodium and potassium absorption. If your aldosterone is messed up, you're going to have high blood pressure. You're going to have a lot of water weight. You're going to have all kinds of problems that you don't want to have. So H. pylori will cause low stomach acid, which causes poor mineral absorption, which causes adrenal stress, which causes dysregulated aldosterone. This will cause fluid retention, high blood pressure, and weight gain. Okay, so this is just from H. pylori. And again, you might treat this with a hormone soup, and that's not the way to treat somebody, let's say, who has fluid retention, high blood pressure, and weight gain. It's better to understand that H. pylori causes that. Let's get rid of the H. pylori, see how that person responds, and then kind of point supplement into that situation. So how do infections hijack hormones? So I'm just going to go through some of the major infections that we see indicated in people with the bioresonance scan. So we see H. pylori quite frequently. Again, as we just talked about, he lowers stomach acid. This causes B12 and iron loss. This affects the thyroid, the adrenal hormones, and aldosterone. We see in a lot of people a helpful bug called Lactobacillus acidophilus. He can overgrow. He does this in lessened stomach acid situations. He's often comorbid with H. pylori, and he's a biofilm former, so he's not a guy that you want to have overgrown. But when he overgrows, he causes estrogen mimicry. So he can make it like you've got a lot more estrogen than you should have. Again, any kind of estrogen eating cancers and things like that are going to really like that type of environment and thrive in that environment. He's going to cause weight gain. He's going to cause insulin resistance, and he's going to cause fatigue. So, and again, some of this is hormonal and mainly due to estrogen. All right. So if you're estrogen dominant, again, there's several of these guys that can cause estrogen domination, but Lactobacillus acidophilus is certainly one of those. If you're infected with helminths, so these are parasites, these are kind of what people are beginning to become aware of that they might be infected with. But a helminth would be a hook, round, pin, tape, worm. So worms are helminths. But they'll shift immunity toward more of an antibody response because your killer response will kill them. And they do this by elevating estrogen. They can lower testosterone. So if you've got low T, you've likely got a pretty good, parasitic infection, and that's likely what's causing it. And then they also suppress cortisol. So they'll suppress your ability to have a fight or flight type reaction. The other thing that we see in people quite frequently is staph and strep infections. And these trigger autoimmunity, so they'll trigger things like Hashimoto's disease. They'll cause thyroid hormone disruption, and they'll cause a kind of an additional adrenal load that you don't need. So these pathogens, and again, there's a lot more of them that do different stuff, but these are just if you come in and get scanned, you're going to have one of these guys. You're going to have an H. pylori infection, a lactobacillus overgrowth, cytomegalovirus or Epstein-Barr virus, a helminth, or some kind of staph or strep infection. And we have never seen anyone yet that didn't have one of those things. Okay. So these pathogens aren't just infecting us. They are reprogramming us. They are literally reprogramming us. So here's what I want you guys to do. Well, first of all, if you're in the Oklahoma City or Edmond area, come in and get scanned. Let's see what you've got going on. If you're not in these areas, if you're not in the Oklahoma City area, there's a lot we can tell from a hormone test, a blood test, pretty much any test that you might have, we likely can get to the bottom of what might be going on with you. So book a consult with us, book some time to, let's say, talk through your issues. And you can do that on the website, on the neighborlywellness.com website, or on the TRUEMEDX.com website. So look at a consult, book a consult if you're not in the Oklahoma City area. But again, what we want to do is we want to get rid of these infections. And by getting rid of these infections, we should begin to right any hormone imbalances that you might have and get you back in those normal tolerances and normal ranges. But we've got to quit blaming ourselves. We've got to quit blaming our bodies. We've got to quit saying, oh, it's just genetics, or, oh, I'm just breaking, or, oh, it's just the way that God designed me. No, again, God designed you perfect. You don't make defective cells. You make perfect cells, all right? So God designed you perfect. And what we need to do and begin to think about is, oh, well, we might be infected. We need to get rid of the infection and then, clean up the damage, right? We don't want our gut to look like post-World War I Europe. We want to, with all the potholes and bunkers and gas residuals and all that, we want to clean that up. We want to rebuild that terrain, and we want to make it into, nice, beautiful, wonderful fields, growing wonderful stuff for our body, right? So we need to think different. We need to recognize that these hormone imbalances are consequences. They're not causes of anything. They're being caused by other factors. And by identifying and removing these infections, we're going to rewrite hormone issues, rewrite hormone balance, rewrite hormone regulation. And we can do it without intervening. We can do it without synthetics. Okay? So come see us at Neighborly Wellness. Get on the TrueMedics website. Look at what we've got. Look at what we've got to kill infection. We've got deworm products. We have got a product called Gut Restore that's really good for H. pylori and Lactobacillus acidophilus overgrowth. Listen to some of our podcasts and get familiar with this way of thinking. This will change your life. It will change the way that you view your function. And so important and really godly. You're a perfect machine. You're built perfectly. And as we figure this stuff out, again, we're going to live a lot longer. We're going to live a lot better. We're going to live a lot healthier. We're going to live a lot happier. And our kids are. So super important. Anyway, we'll leave it there for this episode of Chip Talks Health. We'll see you guys back next week for another exciting episode. Thanks for listening to Chip Talks Health. If today's episode got you thinking about your own health, I'd love to help you dig deeper. At Neighborly Wellness, we use bioresonance scans to uncover root causes and create a personalized plan for your wellness journey. If you're looking for targeted, natural solutions, check out TrueMedics, my line of science-backed, plant-based products. You can book a scan or shop online at neighborlywellness.com or truemedics.com. Your health is worth it. Start today.